How's it going, everybody? Hope you're doing well, and today we're going to be talking about this guy. This is the Cold Steel Bushman. This is probably the best budget bushcraft knife that you could possibly get on the market. So you can get the Cold Steel Bushman usually for around 20 bucks. Amazon, I think it was around 27. I got mine on Blade HQ. I think it was about 18 bucks, and I had a coupon, so I paid like 10 bucks for mine. Super good deal. I mean, if you want a super cheap knife that you can beat the living tar out of, this is what you want to get. I'm not a big fan of like super bushcrafty knives. Most of the time they're pretty expensive if you want to get the good stuff, but when something's this cheap, you really can't go wrong, and the performance you're getting out of it well justifies the the $20 price tag. It's just like a no-brainer. I'm going to be putting up some clips here throughout the video of me just using this thing, and I beat the hell out of this knife, and it passed with flying colors, and it's got some tricks up its sleeve. So first off, let's start off with the sheath here. So very simple plastic sheath. It's not Kydex or anything, so don't get too excited on that. So on the outside of the sheath here, you obviously have the Cold Steel logo, and I really like how this sheath works because basically you press down and it basically releases these two little clips back here. I don't know if you guys can see those, but when you slide that in, it locks onto that. So the knife is in there very well, and all you do is when it's on your belt, you just kind of push and pull, and that's pretty much it. So pretty nice sheath. It's molded plastic, so there's no seams that can break or anything like that. So this is a pretty decent sheath. And then right here you have a fire rod. But for the average person, they won't need to use a ferrocerium rod. They can just use a lighter, but it is good to have it in case you ever need it. So the Bushman comes in two flavors. You have this kind of Bowie style blade, and then you have one that's it's like a very long belly with a flat back. I don't know exactly what kind of blade shape you would call that. I went with the Bowie just because there's a little bit more tip strength, I think, in this in this blade style. I also looked up some reviews, and people had better luck with the Bowie style in terms of hard use. So right here on the blade you have the little Bushman logo. Flip it over to the back. Cold Steel, and this is a Chinese made knife. So the reason I think this knife is one of the best budget bushcrafts you can get, or just one of the best bushcraft knives in general, is the design of it. So basically it's all made out of one piece of steel, so you have less parts to go wrong, you have less parts to break. I mean, it would take a lot to really break this thing. I mean, as you see in these clips, I'm going to pop them up on the screen here. I basically put a log on the ground and see if I could cut through it, just doing hard chopping motions. So obviously it went through that with flying colors, and if you ever need to split a giant log in two, you can do it. You just have to chop at it for a little bit, and then you can break it in half very easily. I also batoned wood with this knife. I frequently have to baton wood because I have a wood burning stove at my house, and I burn oak. So this is all very hard wood, very hard oak that I'm splitting here, and as you see, it's going through it with absolute flying colors. And then another clip I put here is if you're ever out in the in the wilderness, or if you're ever camping and you need a fire starter, you can easily scrape bark off of a tree. So as you see, I did that. It worked very well. I mean, hell, I even use this thing as a shovel. I literally shoved it into the ground, into the rocks and dirt, and I literally made a hole with this thing. So I use it as a shovel. As you see, passed the test with flying colors. So one of the benefits with this design is you have this hole right here, and pretty much you can take any stick that you find, you just have to carve it down to where it goes to kind of like a tapered point, and you can literally stick that into the handle, and you have a impromptu spear. And I think that is just probably the coolest thing about this knife, is if you're ever in a situation where you need to defend yourself against an animal, a person, literally anything, if you find a stick, shave it down, you literally have either a small little sword, or you have a full spear that you can use for throwing or pretty much defending yourself. So I think that's a really cool feature of this knife, and I just think that adds to the usability and versatility of this knife. So in terms of materials, this is made of a high carbon steel, so obviously you don't want to get it wet and leave it because it will rust, but you obviously want to keep this thing clean and dry. Obviously after you use it, wipe it down and try to keep some oil on it. Obviously if you're in a survival situation, you're not going to be able to do that, put oil on it and stuff, but you should keep it dry so it doesn't rust on you. So it's later in the day after I filmed that first part of the video. I just wanted to interject something here that I was able to get a razor edge back on this thing. I have my 600 grit DMT Dia-Sharp stone and a leather strop and about 5 minutes of sharpening, and I got this thing back to a razor edge. So as you see, the first paper test was really bad. It was basically just tearing through the paper. It wasn't even cutting through the paper. I mean, the edge was still probably usable. Like if you needed to cut through, for example, like a watermelon, it would definitely go through that. But being, a razor sharp, it was not sharp at all. So I did about 20 to 30 passes on one side until I felt that burr, flipped it over, did another 20 to 30 passes till the other side had a burr, and then I just kind of alternated back and forth until it had a nice razor edge. Then I stropped it, and it is super, super, super sharp. So this just shows you that that carbon steel is really, really easy to sharpen if you have a decent stone. If you guys are in the market for a stone, I would highly recommend, this is the DMT Dia-Sharp Fine 600 Mesh. You can get this on sharpeningsupplies.com. That's where I got the stone and the strop. I will have that linked below, but you get really, really good results with that. So after all that abuse I put it through, I even kind of bent the tip a little bit, but I just bent it back with some pliers. But I really, really hammered this thing. I threw it probably 15 times, as the spear into that piece of wood as I showed. And so obviously it did bend a little bit, which is not the knife's fault. I mean, I abused this thing. It held up really well, takes a nice razor edge. Super awesome. Continue with the video. So all in all, I think this is an absolute fantastic knife. If you're looking for a knife that you can beat the living hell out of, I would highly recommend this knife. Literally 20 bucks. You seriously cannot go wrong. I will put the link to Blade HQ's website down in the description if you would like to go check that out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay humble. Peace.